Welcome to the Sales Lab.
Yep.
Why would I go to the desk at Home Depot as opposed to working through SRS and kind of a sales rep?
Yeah, great question. So I think part of what we've got the opportunity to do with Home Depot is the concept of meet the customer where they're at. So if I'm a newer contractor, a one-person operation, just starting out my business, the services I need are probably going to be very different than a more complicated customer, more sophisticated customer, or more tenured customer that's larger, multi-location, maybe national in scope, multiple people, and so on. So the services in there really determine what's the best pathway for them to go. And there's many people, many contractors that can be served very well through the services through the Pro Desk at the Home Depot. And they've done that extremely well. It's convenient, 2,300 locations, access to many products. And in many cases, when those contractors go there, if they need roofing materials, for example, Home Depot is then going to drive that quote back through us because we can do the big, bulky, and heavy type delivery and service to where we may be delivering the roofing for that particular contractor, but they're going to buy through Home Depot. As that contractor starts to become larger, they need additional services. Then it's really where do we pass the baton between what they're able to do by going into a Home Depot at a Pro Desk and then what they can do with using the services that we're going to provide at SRS. And so that's really where that baton gets passed between what's the best way for a customer to interact with us and what's the best way for us to serve them as well too.
Okay. And so what are these extra services?
Yeah, so in many cases it will tie to supply chain and logistics, quick turnaround, the ability to get materials. We're going to be, again, heavily weighted towards roofing or siding. So if you're a professional contractor and that's the bulk of the business that you do, you're likely not going to be able to wait for the delay in delivery between going to a Home Depot Pro Desk and when you're going to need materials. It's going to need to be on the ground. You're going to need to do will call. You're going to need to have full access to different types of equipment for delivery needs that you're going to have on the job site. You're going to need next day service with delivery capabilities. There's a whole digital component of how you run your business that you're going to need to support with, and that's going to need to integrate with your supplier, which we can do, and you would not typically find that today through the Home Depot. Those are typically where the differentiations are going to come into play.
Okay. And that's good to know. And I think, maybe getting very basic here, but if I imagine a contractor and they're in a pickup and they can pop into Home Depot and you can fit an awful lot of stuff in a pickup. Mm-hmm. But what you're describing is jobs where you can't fit all that stuff in a pickup. You're going to need a fleet of pickups to get all the stuff to your job site. A contractor attempting to do that would spend a week driving back and forth to Home Depot if they even had the supplies. It's probably requires a little bit of force to get somebody who's not familiar with this to really think about what that looks like, right? Home Depot's huge. They've got all this stuff. They got tons of inventory. Well, not for a commercial roofing job. They don't, right?
Right. Yeah. And even for residential. It's obviously residential roofing is a big business. You walk into any Home Depot, you're going to find it on the shelves of a Home Depot, but in a limited assortment, right? They're just not going to have the space to cover the breadth and depth of inventory that we'll carry. So it'll be one brand of product, maybe a couple colors that are in there and a couple accessories. You go to an SRS, you're going to have access to really all the major manufacturers available and stock on the ground. You're going to have access to all the colors and all the accessories that go with that. So if I'm a professional contractor and I go call on a homeowner and I figure out what they want and what their needs are, again, they could order from that entire spectrum of what's there. The contractor knows with confidence they can come back to SRS and we're going to have that material on the ground in most cases and then be able to serve their needs very quickly. And if they run into an issue on a job and they need 2 more bundles to finish it or some other product to do it, they can either call us and we'll deliver it for them or they can come pick it up at will call in order to finish that job and keep that speed and ease with what's taking place. The second part is each market can be a little bit different in terms of what the kind of the normal delivery requirements are for a market. Some markets are what we call ground drop. So we bring the product to the job site. We've got a forklift on the back of our truck. We're going to unload the pallets of material on the ground, and then the contractor will apply them on the roof when they're ready to go. Other markets are rooftop deliveries. So we have equipment that we can deliver the product up to the roof itself. We have our people up on the roof. They're going to then scatter that product around the roof in order to make it easier for the contractor from an installation standpoint. Those are differences in services that if you go to a Home Depot, again, they do a great job at what they do, but they're not going to offer that breadth and depth of service capabilities as well to meet the needs of the contractor.